Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the 100th episode of Stories of Service. It's hard for me to believe I'm saying that. Ordinary people who do extraordinary work. And I am the host of Stories of Service, Teresa Carpenter. And today I have another incredible, amazing guest. It's my first athlete, Riley. And I should have asked you before the call. I don't want to mispronounce it. So you might want to just say what your last name is.
Tejcek.
Tejcek, Riley Tejcek. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to be here with you. And we are both members of the Parade Deck community. So that is another amazing thing. It's a media service that really caters to the military content creator and change agent. So very excited to be a part of their organization and to have you on. As I said, I really couldn't think of anybody else to have on this 100th episode than someone like yourself who represents grit and dedication. And as I said in the show notes, I first met Riley at the 2021 Sea Services Leadership Association. And she came up to me along with Jackie Barnum. And she told me about she was doing bobsledding and she was an athlete. And I knew it even then. I was like, I got to have her on at some point. And then just time got the best of me. And I didn't do it until I saw you on Amanda Huffman's podcast. And I said, gosh, I still need to talk to her. She's not only a member of Team USAA, she is a Marine and has stepped up. She's telling her story online to nearly 50,000 Instagram followers. She kicks butt in her job, and we're just going to talk today about how she does it. She stationed at Quantico, Virginia, and is now a member of Team USA's National Bobsled team. In fact, she is at training right now as we speak. And she was also named Ms. Military 2023 and appeared on the game show Lingo on CBS. I researched that today. That's I also want to talk about that a little bit. And her dream is to be the first female Marine in the Olympics and dedicates her success to her Christian faith. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing so good. I know there's so many topics I can't wait to talk to you about, but I'm really excited to be live talking to you from Lake Placid at the Olympic Training Center as we're in the midst of just season starting up and getting ready for competition.
Awesome. So my first question for you is, number one, where are you from and why did you decide to join the Marine Corps?
So I was born in San Diego, but I can't really call that home. I really grew up and spent majority of my childhood in Carmel, Indiana. So I'm a Hoosier. I will claim that. And why I decided to join the military, that is something that all of us have a different story. And growing up in Indiana, neither of my parents were military members. And there wasn't really a massive military community where I was located. There's not a massive base or anything like that. And so I dedicate joining the Marine Corps to the Lord, like placing that on my heart at the right time. I played college softball at George Washington University. And within about 3 weeks into my freshman year, met a Marine recruiter and fell in love with it. I just loved everything he had to say. He was another athlete. He talked to me about making a difference in my life, like the idea of service and being selfless and doing something bigger than myself. And then, being a part of, sorry, Teresa, but the biggest, the baddest, and the best military branch that this world has to offer. And I was like, man, I am sold, and he told me, there's not very many women that are in this space, and you would be a change maker. And I was like, sir, I'm all in. What let's go. So I called my parents. I was 18. I remember exactly where I was. I said, hey, Mom, Dad, I just want to let you know, I'm not going to be coming home for summer, even though it's like September and I just got here to college in DC. I'm going to go to officer candidate school for the Marine Corps. And I think my mom cried. My dad was very confused. I think they thought it was a phase.
Right.
It was not. And here I am years later, and now I captain the Marine Corps, and they're extremely proud.
Yeah, and you're right. There are not that many women in the Marine Corps, and we need to get more in that branch. I will tell you, we have all these recruiting problems right now, but what we find is the Marine Corps is not struggling with their recruiting in the same way that the other branches are, and that should tell you a lot just right there. So, yeah, did you have any kind of struggles as you went through your boot camp or as you were, coming in, like having to adjust from civilian life to coming into the military?
Absolutely. And I think people, I've been so far removed from that people forget, and I do not forget. I remember very clearly, because I didn't have a military background or family or been really exposed to the military other than what I saw in movies and shows,
Hmm.
I didn't know what to expect. And I wasn't able to go to the mini OCSs or a lot of the pooly functions with the recruiting office because I was playing softball and I had a full
Mm.
softball schedule for college, which was, my priority at the time during season. And so I showed up 3 days after my freshman year's Atlantic 10 conference tournament to officer candidate school. And I will not lie to you, and people laugh at this. I showed up with my hair down. Like I have long hair. My hair was down. I'm like, okay, I'm here. And immediately sergeant instructor right up me, just like screaming. And I'm like, what did I just get myself into? And to be honest, I didn't even know the rank structure. Like I knew enlisted officer, cool, but like the difference of like a PFC versus lieutenant colonel, I didn't know. I could tell by maybe how old they were, but
Right.
um, it was a massive learning curve. And to be honest, I had never really fired weapons. That wasn't really a thing. We weren't anti-guns, but we weren't really into hunting. Like a lot of my friends and family would hunt in Indiana, but I had never shot a weapon before that I could remember. So, there was a massive learning curve to even just understanding, customs and courtesies,
Hmm.
understanding like how to be a war fighter. So
Right.
I like to think that if I could do it, literally anyone could do it. And that speaks on how good the training is that the Marine Corps offers at Officer Candidate School is they could literally take anybody from any background and mold and transform you into like this incredible Marine. And I think my parents saw that after my freshman year. And I remember my dad, we went to the rifle range, or we went to a range, and we got a rifle, and I was like, Dad, I can take this apart and put this back together in like a minute. And I took the weapon apart. My dad's like, you broke it. And I'm like, no, I'll put it back together. And he was like, who are you? And where is my daughter? He was so proud. So I remember that specifically, but yeah, it was not an easy path. However, I think that the learning that was provided and the way it was provided, I answered very well to from being an athlete,
Right.
that I was able to absorb the information and take it in and then make adjustments in my actions, understanding customs courtesies, Marine Corps history, weaponry, and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think that the people who have been a part of any kind of a team, and I don't, it doesn't even have to be an athletic team. You could be a theater person, because
Mm.
you're still as a theater person, you're a part of another kind of a team, or a performance kind of team. Well, that's what theater is, but I definitely think that you have sort of the advantage over somebody that hasn't really, or even a big family, I would say, or just anything where you're really having to rely on other people and really being cognizant of the, it's not just all about me, but it's about all of us who are coming together to make this mission work. Now, when you decided to join the Marine Corps, did you have a certain what you guys call an MOS, a certain job in mind?
Absolutely. So I, just like anybody, again, I hear the word intel and I'm like, that's sexy. I'm like, I want to be an intel officer. Like I want to go and I want to be like this like spy and gather this
Mhm.
data, right? Like I watched way too many like forensics and just dig different TV show and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be me. And so because of that, I actually really wanted to make myself competitive. And I remember that I went right after my freshman year to Officer Candidate School in 2016. I was too young to go back in 2017. So I actually moved to Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, to learn Russian. So я говорю немножко русский язык. I speak a little Russian, because I wanted to be an intel officer. And so I wanted to be the best version of myself, to be the best version for my Marines and what, my country may have asked of me. I am not an intel officer. I am
Yeah.
a logistics officer. So it didn't necessarily go as I thought maybe I would have liked it to, but praise the Lord, it didn't, because of where I am and the job that I did get, other opportunities and doors open for me. And I'm so thankful. And I do love what I do, because I'm a Marine officer first.
Right.
And then,
Right.
my MOS is after that. And as a Marine officer, everyone has a similar training. And we all
Mhm.
are trained as riflemen, which is something specific to the Marine Corps. So with my peers, we all did the exact same stuff. like the basic school together for 6-7 months prior to even going to our specialist school. So that's really fun and exciting. But yeah, I definitely didn't get my choice, my top choice, and I'm pretty glad I didn't. But it still looks cool and it still sounds cool. And there's times that I'm like, man, that would have been a really cool job, but here I am.
Yeah, that's how life goes, though. I mean, I didn't come into the Navy with exactly what I thought or saw myself doing in terms of my skill set, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just sort of got placed into fixing airplanes when I enlisted. And it took me many, many years to get to where I am today, where I'm a storyteller, but I'm also a storyteller off duty, which is obviously the right fit for somebody like myself. But sometimes that's just the way it the way it turns out. And like you, I was a sailor first, and I wanted to serve in the Navy, and I wanted to be a part of teams that were doing cool missions and getting opportunities. And that's what I focused on, not necessarily the fact that I was turning wrenches all day. Although I tried to do my best in those jobs, I also knew that I didn't have necessarily the passion or the aptitude for it. So at this point, yeah, you can just really move around and do lots of cool things. Now, how did you start getting into bobsledding? Like, how did you go from, okay, I'm going to be a Marine Corps officer. So because you're in Quantico now. When I met
Right.
you at
Yep.
SSLA, that was your first duty station, right?
So my first duty station was Camp Pendleton,
Okay.
but all of our training, so the basic school is back in
Okay.
Quantico. So officer candidate school, the basic school's in Quantico. So I lived there and I was stationed there. I was a short-term station at North Carolina in Camp Lejeune for my MOS school. So that was 3 months. Spent
Yep.
3 years in Camp Pendleton, and now I'm back at Quantico, like I never left. Now.
Wow. Okay. And then now let's transition to, how did you become an athlete on duty? Like, how did
Mhm.
all that come about?
Yes, so I mentioned previous to this, but I was a collegiate softball player. So I played Division One softball at George Washington University, and that's where my story kind of begins. So I had met a alumni that played softball there by the name of Lana Myers Taylor, and she is a 5-time Olympic medalist in the sport of bobsled. So she's the only jersey that's retired from our softball program. So everyone knows who she is. So obviously, just because of that, I became a bobsled fan because someone that played softball here, played.
Right.
So, anyways, fast forward, it's 2018. So I'd already completed my first round of officer candidate school. I'm about to go back and complete my final phase to make sure I can commission after graduation. And Alana wins a silver medal in Pyeongchang. And George Washington invited her to come and speak to all the athletes. So her husband, who was competing in the games, and her brake woman, so her teammate, they all came to George Washington, and I was chosen amongst my whole team to present her an award on behalf of the softball team. So I have pictures of me giving her this award, and I remember listening to her speak. And as she's explaining the sport of bobsled and the grit and the tenacity it takes and the adrenaline rush and just like everything about it, I remember I hit my teammate next to me and I said, man, in another life, I would be a bobsledder because I was fast, but I wasn't the fastest. But when we had prowler pushes and weightlifting and stuff, like I stood out in that realm. And I just never thought it would ever be an option. So that's where that seed was planted. And I say like, that's when looking back on it, the Lord kind of saw an opportunity,
Yeah.
but it
Tapped you on
wasn't
the
time
shoulder.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew too, my head was set on the Marine Corps. Like I said, I had moved to another country just to learn another language at this point. Like I was like, I will do whatever it takes to be the best Marine officer. So, I commissioned upon graduating in 2019. I go to the basic school in September of 2019 to April of 2020, go to MOS school April to July. So it's July of 2020. I finally hit this fleet that everyone was talking about. I'm like, I'm in the fleet. Like, let's go. Like, I got my number
Right.
one duty station of going to Camp Pendleton, California, which is just incredible to be in Southern
Beautiful.
California. Oh my
Oceanside, California. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
and I'm so nervous. I'm filling a captain's billet, so I'm a second lieutenant filling an O3 billet as the S4 officer for MALS 39, which is a squadron of roughly 700 plus Marines, and I am the S4 running the shop of all logistics for the whole squadron. So it wasn't a light job.
No, that's it. That's a
So
hard job. Yeah.
it was. And, I came in really, really excited. And like a lot of my peers at the time, prepping what's deployment schedule, what's op tempo, what's my normal battle rhythm. And obviously, you join, the military thinking like, I'm going to deploy, maybe not to a war zone, but I'm going to go and I'm going to get mine. I'm going to go do something. And I remember I had a conversation with my executive officer, and he's like, yeah, Riley, you're non-deployable. Like, we're a non-deployable unit. We sent detachments, and you're not ever going to deploy. And it broke my heart. I was like, what? And I hear all my friends and all my buddies that went through school, they were going to be going through deployments. They were going to be doing all these things. And I'm like, I'm a bench player, and let alone, like, I didn't have a platoon. So everyone else was like a platoon commander to some degree. And I had 5 Marines in my S shop. Again, I love them to death. I'm so thankful for the opportunity, but I couldn't help but feel like a little cheated.
Yeah, like you're left out. Yeah.
Totally. And so I said, okay, I realized that I, at that moment, had lost my motivation for what's next. I've always been very goal-oriented. So, for example, growing up in high school, get a college softball scholarship. Okay, got a college softball scholarship. Okay, get to college, be the best athlete and academic member that you possibly can. Cool, I did that. Okay, join the Marine Corps. Cool, I did that. Get the MOS you want. Not really, but okay, then be the best logistics officer you can. Cool, did that. Get to your unit. Be the best, get ready for deployment, get ready to impact and make a change. Oh, wait, I
can't do that. Yeah.
And being an athlete and having that competitor in me, I was like, we only have 2 physical fitness tests a year. Like, I can't wake up and just train for that. Like, I need something more. And if anyone remembers when I say, July, August of 2020, that's COVID. That's early COVID. So I was like, I need something. I'm going to go crazy. And so I said, okay, I'm going to join the Marine Corps softball team. And in my head, that made total sense.
Right.
Again, besides, it was COVID and it was shut down. And again, I'm like, oh, like, you should have sent me. Like, I was like on my desk, like, applying. And I was like, no.
Yeah, that's so frustrating. I mean, because you were like, you finally found something that really fits you and could give you that drive and that passion that you needed, and now you can't do it.
And I felt like, I was 22, 23 years old when I left college. And I said, as a woman, like, I'm still, like, growing into my body. I'm still developing. Like, I feel bigger, faster, stronger now than I did in college when I was 18. Like, what do you mean my athletic career is over? Like, I still have a lot to give. So where this is going is, I saw that Bobsled, because it was COVID, through Alana, was having an online combine. A combine very similar to like an NFL combine. They're going to measure sprints, jumps, lifts, athleticism in whatever capacity you can give to see if you would potentially get an invite to even come out and try the sport. And for me, I was like, okay, finally, I have something to work for. However, I was a very strong softball player, and I completely changed my body to be a lean 150 to be able to run, sprint, rock effectively. And when I looked into bobsled, and again, Alana is 180 pounds, and she is a whole tank as a woman. I mean, she is incredible, strong, thick, fast, just like what you would think of as like a stud athlete. And I was like, that is not me. So I knew that if this is something that I wanted to try for, I had to train a little bit differently. So I trained for a month. I submitted my video, and I did something, pretty characteristic to myself. I picked up the phone and I called the head coach. I just said, hey, sir, I just want to let you know, this is who I am. My name's Riley Tejcek. I'm in the Marine Corps. I don't even know if this is possible. I don't even know if I'm going to be even allowed to do this, but I'm going to do it. And I just want to know how I want to compete. I want to know how I rank against the top athletes around the world. I have a connection to Alana, and I've seen bobsled. I paid attention every year in the Olympics because of Alana. And then I got in contact with Alana. Alana got me in contact with the coaches. Next thing I know, I get an invite to come to Park City at that Olympic track in November of that year of 2020. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. And when that moment became real is when the anxiety set in of like, am I even allowed to do this? Like,
right. Like, this is something nobody has ever done in the military, or you haven't heard of it. You don't have anybody to talk to or to say, how do they do this?
Right. And let alone, like, how do I tell, like, logically, sir, I've never done this sport, but can I go try it? and see if I can maybe make a Team USA's team. And so I remember I was restless. I did not sleep that whole night. I go up, I'm like, knock on my executive officer's door, who's a major. He's an incredible man. And I just said, sir, I got something for you. And you might want to sit down for this. And he's like, is everything okay? And I was like, so I may have did something, like I did this tryout. I applied. They invited me to come for 2 weeks to Park City and to actually try driving the bobsled and see if I have what it takes, because I was so young and they were lacking in pilots from retirement athletes that they wanted me to go straight away into the front seat, which doesn't happen very often. And I was actually blessed. We were in a COVID era where people were taking 2 weeks off and teleworking when they would potentially be around someone with COVID or test positive. So we were kind of already adapting by this point in November to a new way in the whole world of how to telework and how to be remote. And so I believe that was massive in helping me. And then lastly, my boss, we made a deal. We're like, listen, if I can't uphold my job and my end of the bargain, judge me fairly on my fit reps. I'm not going to be like, well, I wasn't here, so it didn't get done. That's not fair. Like, no, I said, just give me a chance. And I remember him telling me, he's like, Riley, you've worked really hard. You've proven yourself here. I have no reason not to give you a chance to try it. And to this day, I don't want to go too far in advance, but flash forward, him and his wife and his family watched me this past season and this past February in Germany in a race. And that was like the coolest 360 moment I've ever had in my life. But going back, they let me go. So I took my laptop, everything that anyone that teleworks would. I would wake up really early. I would work. I would come after practice and go straight to work. Even though I crashed, I had sled head. I just spent 6 hours on the track. I had a workout later that night. I hadn't eaten. I'm just trying to balance it. And at the time, I don't know if they thought that I would have been as successful as I was. I didn't know if really I knew if I was going to be successful. Sure. I just was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. How do you not take it? So I took it. And flash forward, I end up being decent. They asked me to stay a little bit longer. I kept driving, and in January, I competed in my first international competition and took home 2 bronze medals. And I think that's when, he said, oh no, I can only imagine, you know what I mean?
What does this really mean now? This isn't just like, oh, I just did a thing and now I'm coming home. Now this is like, you're hitting the big leagues and you're going to keep going with this. And how does the military adjust? Yeah. So tell me what happened. You get the bronze, and then now what is your practice cycle in 2020? Because I met you in August of 2021. So you had already won the bronze. You had been doing this for about a year. So take me back to where you were in January 2021 after winning.
Right. Yeah. So I called them and I was like, oh my gosh, you won't believe this. And I went straight back to work.
Right.
I drove back and forth to Park City. It's about 10 hours. So I was in control and I would be making that drive. And just trying to balance. And, Bobsled would give me 3 weeks off to go back to work. And they're like, hey, we want to teach you a new track. So they brought me back to Lake Placid in New York because we only have 2 tracks in the United States. And they said, let's see how you do in Lake Placid. Try to drive Lake Placid. So that first year was just learning. Obviously I had results to show, which the Marine Corps did like, which I was like, yes, thank you. But I also, was like, I'm still trying to figure this out. This is not an easy sport, by the way, despite what people think.
It's a bizarre sport that nobody knows anything about. I'll be honest with you. The only thing I knew about bobsledding was there was that Jamaican bobsled team.
Cool running.
Yes.
That's all anyone knows, by the way. So that's I can't tell you how many times I get asked that. Oh, the Cool Runnings. I'm like, majority of it. There's a little bit of Disney, sprinkled in there. That's not true.
Right.
But yeah. And so I'm like, they should make another one. Because it's a cool sport and there's so much to learn about it. But yeah, so, fast forward, I keep learning, I keep competing. The year that, we met, I end up actually going to Europe and learning other tracks there. And then flash forward to, 2022, 2023 season, this past season, I was named to the World Cup national team and was ranked USA 3. and got to compete all across the world against the Olympians, against everybody, and competed in world championships. Like the Olympics of a non-Olympic year, I competed in Switzerland and held it down and got to represent my country. And I I pinch myself sometimes realizing how far I've come, and I have to dedicate it to the Lord and just opening opportunities, and the Marine Corps for standing by me and believing in me as I do this. And what people don't see is the hours that I put in to balance the lack of sleep, the lack of, my teammates don't have jobs,
Right.
or they all work remote, or they live at the Olympic Training Center. They eat, they breathe, they sleep this sport. And I don't get any, what's the word? I don't get any like hall passes from requirements from Marine Corps. Like I was still at the rifle range 2 weeks before I got here, waking up at 2 a.m. I still have to run my PFT and CFT. I still have to make weight. I still have to, go to the gas chamber. I still have to like put out and do well on my fit reps and, do what I can. And on top of that, then go to different appearances and things like this. So it's not easy. It's not ideal, to be honest,
No.
to be successful in both. But what I'm trying to do is something that's never been done before, not for me, but to make a path for other people, and hope that as I continue to go forward, that maybe people aren't inspired to be a bobsledder, but people are inspired to do something that they never thought was possible, to continue to get the best talent in our military, and to continue to open that door wide for women to realize that the opportunities that they might want or desire are endless.
I love it. I absolutely love it. We do have a couple people who have joined us in the call. I just want to recognize them. Dr. June Brenner said, shout out to my dad, who's in the 3rd Marine Division.
Yes.
Andrew Appleton, our parade deck guru, says, thank you, Riley and Teresa. And then my colleague, Michelle Tucker, she's a fellow PAO. She said, what an amazing journey, Riley. Love it. Yeah. I mean, that's the hardest part, is like, how are you doing this and balancing? And at some point, I mean, now you're in the 2022, 2023 season. I mean, if you were to qualify for the Olympics, I mean, I just can't. I mean, has there ever, I guess my question is, and you've done this research, maybe, has there been other active duty service members on any, not the ones that get to do it full time? As you said, Air Force and Army have some deal where they can do this full time. I want to know, is there anybody else that you found who was able to do this on active duty and compete at this level
There
in
hasn't
another
been.
sport? Okay.
Yes, there hasn't been a female Marine, so that would be my goal, is to be the first female to do it. But there has been Marines that were on the wrestling team that have gone, that I know that in this past Olympic Games, I know Paris is quickly approaching, but the Olympics prior to it, I believe in Tokyo, we had now at the time, he was a staff sergeant, now gunnery sergeant, that competed in wrestling for the Olympics. And he has an incredible story, and him and I have been in contact with each other of like, how are we going to keep doing this? And
Right.
The Marine Corps unfortunately cut the Marine Corps wrestling team, and having to balance and try to be an elite athlete and an elite tactical athlete for the Marine Corps is just something that is extremely demanding. So it has been done by him, and he's proven it's successful, but it's very, very, very few. And I don't think that's an accurate representation of people that could, because I truly just am biased and believe that all Marines are tactical, incredible athletes. And I've met several that are incredible athletes in their specific sport and just aren't able to make that transition,
Right.
or to continue to compete based off of the needs of the Marine Corps, based off of the needs of your MOS or your job or your duty station or, deployment cycle.
Right. And I mean, the nice part is, one of the things that I'm very passionate about, even at my workplace, as hard as it is to do, is that we do have a work from home policy, and we try our best where and when we can. Now, obviously, you're deployed on a warship, you can't do it. You work in a hospital, maybe you can't do it. But for the people who can, when and where they can, if we can work with people to do some sort of a work from home, and then we do get off 30 days a year. All of us who join the military do get 30 days off per year. And there's the options of for those, I mean, you're in a little bit of a different situation in that you've got to be near a track to practice your particular sport, but you can at least do some of the physical fitness conditioning requirements, even when you're away. and not on the track. So there are ways to do that. What you're saying reminds me so much of anybody who, like, let's say they're a musician or they're in theater, they're a performer on Broadway. I mean, we need those people. We need people who can bring those skills into the military and bring that level of expertise. So I just think it's so important. And like you said, it's showing people that if you want to do this bad enough, you damn well do it. You just make it happen because that's what you want. I mean, it's how I feel about my podcast. I do this show every single week. I rarely miss a week. That's why I have 100 episodes after 2 years. But it's because I'm so passionate about it. I believe in what I'm doing, and I know that I'm onto something. And so I just have to keep doing it like you do. Keep practicing that game, because I'm going to get better over time, as I feel you have obviously done. And that's another question: is how have you seen your bobsledding skills improve from where you started to where you are today?
Wow. I watched videos. Sometimes you have to pinch yourself and remind yourself. I think not just in sport, but I do a lot of journaling, and I look back on where I was 3 years ago, and I look where I am now. And there's times when I feel defeated, or there's times when I feel like my growth is just stagnant, and I remind myself, wow, look at the version of yourself now compared to where you were. And
Right.
that 3 year ago Riley would not recognize the Riley that's walking these halls at the Olympic Training Center right now. And I think I'm so incredibly proud and blessed that I've transformed into a better athlete, but a better Marine, a better woman, a better friend, a better daughter through this process. And it's taught me a very, very valuable lesson, is that you need to be able to take chances on people, and you need to be able to stand behind them when they say, hey, I have this crazy idea, and like back them, because the world may tell you no, but if you have that tight group, I call my tribe, that stands behind you, that tells you yes, they're going to keep you pushing. And so what you don't see right now, as you and I are having this conversation, is the people behind me that talked me through hard times when I wanted to quit, that encouraged me when I didn't know how I'd be able to balance both, that took a chance on me and believed in me and gave me, the benefit of the doubt, that said, keep going. We got you. What do you need? How can I help? The selflessness of my leaders, that my absence was going to impact the Marines, and my Marines to say, man, we got you. Don't worry, we got you. We got this. Come back and bring us home, a medal, and you make us proud. It brings tears to my eyes, because it's not about me. This journey is not. You may see my face, but the faces behind it are numerous, and ones that I can't even count and tell you. And the support that I've gotten, I almost feel undeserving of it, because people have bent over backwards to help me get here into certain places, and I don't want to let them down. I want to keep going and pursue this the best I can. I know at some point I'm going to have to choose in my career, and I'm fully prepared. And I will say this, and I've said it a million times, I made a commitment and I took my oath to the Marine Corps, and that is where my loyalty in my heart lies. And as long as I can maintain doing both and provide the Marine Corps with what it's asking of me, then I will continue. And the second that the Marine Corps, calls me home,
Sure.
it's time to go home. And, in my faith and everything, too much is given, much is expected, but anything that's given to you can be taken away from you as well. And so I just try to remind myself, the dreamer that I was 3 years ago, I still want to have those dreams and aspirations. But oh man, this journey has taught me and made me grow into such a better person, I think, and given me life lessons that I'll have and carry with me for the rest of my life.
I love it. And I love how you said too, we should always remember to never compare ourselves with the person next to us, because the person next to us did not walk down the same road in life, was not raised the same way, was not given the same opportunities or the same setbacks. It's always good in my mind to take a look at yourself and see where you were 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's one of the reasons I do, like you do the journal. I do a lot of blogs, and I'll go back to some of my old blogs sometimes, and I'll read like where my headspace was when I wrote certain things. And it's amazing to kind of see how your perspective changes over the years, and where you were at that time to where you're going today. Who would you say are some of the people that inspired you the most in this journey?
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot, and I'm going to just start with my two parents. So my mom, being a working woman, my mom was somebody who, despite having kids and stuff, maintained her job and has been with the same company for I think 20 plus years since she graduated grad school, and is now the first woman, one of the top women VPs and one of the highest ranking women in her company. And seeing her push through despite having kids, trying to be a mom and a businesswoman and not letting, one take too much from the other, and to travel and still be successful in a male dominated field. She's who inspired me that I can be in male dominated fields as well and have a place at the table. I see my dad who was, played professional baseball and just
Okay.
absolutely grinded despite maybe of like genetics, like this is the body that I'm given, but I can't maybe control my fast twitch muscles, but I can control my attitude and my effort and how hard I work. And so he inspired me through this process. And I've had pastors and Christian friends that have stood beside me and have motivated me and inspired me along this journey to keep going with their prayers and their um, just kindness of knowing that regardless I'm okay, and reminding me in the hard times that it'll be great, and in the good times, hey, like the Lord is pouring favor and blessing over you, which is couldn't be more true. And then lastly, for all the female Marines out there and the future Marines, female Marines, I mean, I
Hmm.
love my male Marines too, but specifically for the women, I'm inspired to inspire the next generation. I'm inspired to leave behind and make it better than I found it, so they have a better pathway and they have
Hmm.
someone to look to. Because, like I said, I never wanted to be a female Marine because I never saw one. And so, if
Hmm.
I could be a face, maybe if we get the top talent and they be a face for someone else, and that just continues to where that statistic of 5 to 8% of women officers in the Marine Corps is now doubled, and that would be a goal of mine.
Yeah, speaking of which, I wanted to ask you, do you intend to make the Marines a career, or are you if you're so here's a question, and if sure you've been asked this. So if you come to a crossroads at your next time that you have to keep going or keep taking orders, is there going to come a time where you will not retire? You'll just make this you'll get out at the 8-year mark or the 9-year mark, and then go towards bobsledding, or do you think you'll stay into the Marines and you'll just keep doing the sports as long as you can? Because you're going to come to a place where like you're going to be a senior officer and or a more senior officer, and you're going to need to deploy, and
Mhm.
that's the other piece too. You might have to go on an amphib or something like that. So how are you envisioning that?
Yeah, and I think this is actually the first time live. I've had these conversations with friends and family. This is the first time, I'll say it live. My dedication lies to the Marine Corps. And so I'm fully prepared to make this quad my only quad. Do everything I can to get the 2026 games. I just picked up captain earlier this month, and I know that I do not have deployments under my belt. I know I haven't been at a deployable unit. And as a
Right.
logistics officer and wanting to be a potential executive officer and eventually, a commanding officer, there's things that I have to do. And I
There are.
know that. And right now I'm kind of in my B billet, which a lot of people are. A lot of my peers are going to PME schools, or, even NPS and Naval Postgraduate School and all this kind of stuff. And so they're kind of in this B billet. So this for me is my B billet. I'm in a B billet that isn't B meaning for any non-military. It's not my primary job. So I'm not in the logistics field necessarily. And this was on purpose to make it to the games. And it just so happened I just got here. The games are in 3 years. So it's a win-win. But I will say this, I'm planning on retiring after the 2026 season. So
Mhm.
after February of 2026, I will be hanging up my athlete helmet and my spikes, and I will be giving everything I have into the Marine Corps and getting ready to do what I need to do there, and hope that the journey that I had will continue to impact the Marine Corps, and I can
Mhm.
continue to share my story of what I was able to do to get Marines to do the same. But yeah, I'm fully prepared to let go of bobsled. I hope it's not sooner, so that I could give myself a chance to potentially make the games. But if it's sooner, it's sooner. And, I've already been able to experience the world championships, which is the highest level possible. And so I have nothing but positive things to say. And I know that what the Marine Corps needs and what so many people in the Marine Corps have sacrificed and given, I want to be right there standing beside them, doing the same things. And I look forward to that day to not have to work out and balance everything actually.
Right.
But, I'm giving everything I have to the Marine Corps, and I'm excited to one day give 100% of everything all year round, and to see what I'm able to do and grow. I might get a little bit skinnier again, but it'll be good.
Well, the Marines needs people like you. My God, we need people who will lead and will do the right thing and want to stick around. And I mean, I've made this my life for 27 years, and I have absolutely no regrets. So, um, and I just kept getting jobs, and then even my next assignment that I can't announce yet, but I think is probable, is another adventure. I keep thinking I'm going to take that off ramp, and then I just keep getting offered an opportunity that's like, oh, I've never done that before. That sounds cool. And then, it's too with me. I feel like I'm every year I'm getting a little better and kind of going down the road a little bit, but in a more positive way. And then it's like, oh, I want to use these new skills in this different way. And so, yeah, I understand how you feel. It's one of those things where, and it is an adventure. I mean, you never know where you're going to get assigned next. You never know what ports you're going to hit when you go in on a ship. There's something very emotional about serving. And,
Yeah.
you just, and I wouldn't have made it my life for this long if it wasn't something that was just very, very important and very vital to really my identity. And it's wonderful to talk to somebody like yourself. I have so many like whistleblowers on and people who are speaking up for change, and I love it and want that. But it's also nice to do another show like the one I'm having here with you today with somebody who is just team Marine Corps and team Navy. It's kind of reminds me when I was talking to Kelly not Renee Hall, she's Sabraki now. And she's the same way about the Navy. And it's just nice to sometimes have these kinds of conversations as well. They remind me of how much I love serving and all the good experiences that I've had, Riley. So thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. Now I want to get into Lingo and Ms. Military 2023 before we end the call. So first off, I think Lingo was first. Tell me a little bit about how you got onto a game show.
Yes. So last year, like I said, I made the national team and I competed all across the world. And I knew that financially I was going to be responsible for a lot of that bill. So quick story. Bobsled is a niche sport. We don't have funding to fund every single sled on our highest circuit. And so it's up to the athletes to come up with funding. So sponsorships, self-pay, all of it.
Funding to actually to use the tracks and things like that. Like, what is the funding for?
Yes. So sled equipment. So to be able to rent the equipment, to be able to have ice time, to be able to travel, lodging, logistical transportation of your sleds. So like I said, I competed all across the country and then to Europe and Asia. So doing all of that made me like expenses to have to like ship sleds. And then I'm staying in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, some of the nicest places at ski resorts for lodging, food, transportation. So the price goes up quickly, let alone equipment. We call them runners, but the blades that are on the sleds, those, a set of 4 can go anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, for example, just to put that. Yeah. Wow. I know. So it's expensive. So I was really praying and I wasn't sure financially.
Oh yeah, I got you. Okay, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to make it work financially. And I prayed on it and I got an Instagram DM from a casting member that was said, hey, I think you'd be really great for this new game show. And I thought I was being punked. And I was like, okay. And he sent me the flyer and it was like pretty legit. And I emailed, I did my research and it was a team of 2. So I asked my mom, I was like, hey, you want to just like try this? And my mom was like, what are you talking about? I was like, dude, it'll be okay. Let's just like try it. It's a new game show. It's similar to Wordle. We love game shows. My mom is brilliant. Like I said, she keeps me really like steady. Long story short, we applied. We went through like 7 rounds. We got on. and we filmed last August in the UK. It just so happened filming was in the UK. I've never been there in my life. They flew us out for 48 hours. We filmed. We ended up winning. And I came home, and it aired in March, so I had to keep it hush up until then. And that is how I was able to go and fund my team without having to worry about the financial implications last season. And that was the biggest blessing. So it's on Paramount Plus. It's actually still streaming. So it's Lingo episode 7. You can't miss the front picture. It's me and my mom. Yeah, I mean, I ugly cried on national television because I couldn't believe it. I felt so blessed, and I felt like the Lord just absolutely provided in a way that I didn't know how. And so that's like my fun fact that like I've also been on a game show and we won, me and my mom, which is something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And I'm so glad we shared that moment.
So cool. Like, what was RuPaul like? What was the cat and what was the Hollywood experience like? Like,
addicting. I was like, wait a minute. I have someone to do my hair and my makeup and my outfit like all the time. Like I wear camis every day. I'm like, this is awesome. And RuPaul was hilarious. But a live audience and the adrenaline and like the rush and, being with your mom and that bond was just like addicting. I'm like, what's next? I want to go back on TV.
Well, and you guys practice too. I read the story in the Union Tribune. Like, you put a lot of work into prepping for this too.
We did. Yeah, we would practice for an hour every day, and then we would FaceTime and do like the share screen and would practice for at least 30 minutes a day. Like we were dedicated, but I think, no matter how many times you practice, you get there and it's the lights, the RuPaul, the live audience, you're in a different country, you're exhausted because you didn't sleep because it's a 6+ hour time difference.
Right. And the anxiety of just knowing you're about to be filmed and do this in front of an audience and everything. Oh God, that's so cool.
Oh, it was the best experience I've ever had in my life.
Oh my gosh. All right. And then what is the Miss Military 2023?
Yeah. So I don't know if you see this trend in my life where I be bold and I put myself out there and I do things. That does not mean I haven't failed, and that doesn't mean I haven't told myself no, but very similar. I was reached out to on social media. Hey, there's this pageant. It's Mr. and Miss Military 2023. Well, I guess that was the year, but the pageant. And we think that you would be an awesome contender. And I was like, I kind of laughed. I was like, I'm not a pageant girl. I've never done a pageant in my life. Like, I wear combat boots. Like I'll wear.
And you're an athlete. Yeah.
It doesn't mean I walk well in them or any of this kind of stuff. And I did some more research into it, and I liked it because there wasn't like a, bikini photo or, it was community service. And how are you serving your veteran community? And how did you work with a nonprofit? And, what is your talent and what are you doing to give back to your community? And what are the things you stand for? And asking military related questions. I know we talked about earlier, one of them was talking about the recruiting crisis and what we would do differently. And that was another opportunity where I just put myself out there. I was bold, and I ended up winning, which was crazy. And it's been awesome because it's opened doors where, I've gotten to go to some military events like an air show and, in California, and I was able to, have my crown on and show little girls and be like, yeah, I'm a military member and I'm a princess, right? So they see the crown and they're like, you're like a queen, you're Elsa, you're this, and showing them, hey, we can do both. This is me normally, and I also dress up, and I don't fly those planes, but I'm right there on the ground and firing weapons and doing the same. And so that has been a really cool, interesting dynamic. I know 2023 only has a couple months left, but it's opened doors to be able to, again, reach the public, share my story, and show people that, and I know you talked about Kelly, you can do both.
Yeah, just like Kelly says. And speaking of sharing your story, I think I can pull this up while we're talking. You share your story quite a bit. Tell us a little bit, and I'll pull it up while you're talking. Tell us a little bit about what you do on this page right here.
Yes, that is my Instagram. I'm only on one platform, and I actually was off social media for 3 years in college. And I started getting back on when I realized that my story is not just for me, and other people can get inspired by what I'm doing. The Lord has blessed me with a bunch of opportunities. So I created Instagram. My first video is literally me prior to going to trying out for bobsled before I knew if this was even possible.
There's your
And
mom, right?
that's my grandmother.
Your grandmother. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's your mom. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
the Lingo
funny.
picture, the Lingo pictures are in there.
Mm-hmm.
With me and my mom. My mom is like looks
Oh, here it
incredible.
is.
Oh, there's me and RuPaul and my mom.
Yes, there's you on the video right here. For all those who are listening, we're just watching a couple of the videos on her Instagram page, and she's actually got a picture of, oh my gosh, this is where you guys win.
That's my ugly cry. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. So cool. Wow, Riley, this is so neat. Yeah, so you just and you take amazing images, by the way, and are a very good communicator. How did you learn to do all this stuff? Did you just kind of watch other people and just kind of pick up tips and tricks?
Yeah, I've never taken a marketing or media class or anything.
Good.
I just that's where I met you.
Yep, yeah, it is. Yep.
I just am like, I just choose to be my authentic whole self, and it just am me, and I like to show the different assets of me. I have a little bit of my personal life in there. I have a lot of my bobsled, and I have my military career. What you see on my page is who I am, and I try to accurately reflect that. I am feminine. I am a woman. I like to dress up and look nice. I like to explore and adventure when we went to different castles, and I like to compete and be an athlete and lift weights. So I like to do a little bit of everything, and I try to just be an accurate representation of myself on my page.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So cool. So cool. All right. Well, is there anything else before we wrap up the call that I didn't ask you about that you want to address to the audience?
No, I just always let people know this, though. She just showed my Instagram page, but I am more than happy to answer or help anybody with any dreams or goals or desires that they might have that might need someone in their corner to stand behind them, or questions of, how did you do this? Maybe questions that we didn't talk about. I'm here for you guys. Like I said, it's not about myself. So I actually answer every single DM or direct message or email as long as it's appropriate. And
Right.
I'll get back to you. So please, if you feel maybe inspired, or maybe your dream went through your head when you're listening to our conversation, you have an advocate in me, and I'm happy to be here and help in any way possible. So I just always want to throw that plug. Let me know what I can do for you guys. It's not about me. It's about the we. And I just want to keep populating the military, specifically the Marine Corps. Sorry, Navy. But, the military with the best. And I'm hoping that, we're two faces of two awesome women that are doing it, so you guys can as well.
Yep. And the Navy needs the Marine Corps. Marine Corps needs the Navy. We give you guys the ride wherever you go. Just saying. All right, Riley. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to go full screen just for a moment, and then I will meet you in the little backstage green room. And we're actually going to go and do just a real quick Instagram live and just kind of go over the call and promote that there, since that's obviously where you have your biggest audience. But thank you so much for joining. And gosh, I'm so grateful we had this conversation.
Yes, we'll talk soon.
All right. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was an amazing show. I'm in such a good mood. This is why I podcast. I just get to have these incredible conversations. I will see you guys next week. I have another show. It is another whistleblower. You guys know I love whistleblowers, so can't wait to have him on and talk about his experiences. And it's not with the military. I believe he's FBI, but I'm going to get more into his story this next week. That's usually also what I do, is my guest prep all the week leading up to the show. So can't wait to talk to him. Can't wait to bring him to you. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and talk to you later. Bye now.